Hello, welcome again to the Kate Valentine UFO Show. We're with you here on 1160 WVNJ. Today, our guest is the well-known radio host and best-selling author, Kevin Trudeau. Kevin is also well known for his advocacy of healthy lifestyles and suspects government conspiracy, a topic which certainly resonates here. Although he is not a mainstream ufologist, it's always good to get a view from someone who is standing back a little and taking a look at what we're trying to do. Now today he's going to be discussing some eye-popping experiences he's had at Area 51. Welcome to the show, Kevin. Thank you for being here with us.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, not at all. How did you ever happen to get an invitation to visit Area 51?
Well, it's a long story, and it goes back quite a long way. But I was inducted into an organization called the Brotherhood, which is, some people would call a secret society. And it's a group of people that have pretty high levels of DNA vibration that allow them to do certain things. There's an interesting movie called Push. And this movie called Push is obviously a fictitious movie. But it's an interesting movie because it tells a little bit of truth behind it. And that is, some people are born naturally with certain abilities. You may call them psychics, you may call them kinesthetic readers or movers of energy or being able to bend spoons, what have you. And when these people are located, the Brotherhood takes them in, trains them even more, and they're used around the world for various purposes. And when you're in that group, you have access to some information and some technologies and knowledge that just the average person doesn't have access to.
Well, what did you mean by DNA vibrations?
Well, the way it works is everything in the universe has a vibratory pattern, or vibrates, or has a frequency that it emits.
Okay.
Whether it's a rock, whether it's gold, it all vibrates. It all has a frequency. The DNA also has a frequency. And when you have a certain frequency, it allows you to do some different things. Everyone's born with different abilities. Some people have natural gifts for art. You know, they can paint. Other people have natural gifts for cooking or singing or playing the piano or playing golf or shooting pool or athletics. We all have different just natural abilities that we're born with. And if you have some abilities in order to use your mind to do certain things, then you're taken into this group and you're given access to information that the average person doesn't have access to. And that's how I got involved with learning about extraterrestrial technology in terms of how to use your mind.
So they actually found you then?
Correct. And, you know, it's interesting because when you watch movies, a lot of this information is revealed in movies purposely to kind of get people a little bit acclimated. And in the movie Star Wars, if you remember, Anakin Skywalker, the little boy, was found by a Jedi Master, and he was found to have a certain amount of this vibratory pattern which could make him a Jedi. And they said, boy, if you were on a planet closer to us, we would have found you a lot earlier, because you can find them. It's like beacons of light. Today, there's machines that actually can find people on the planet with these vibratory patterns, and they're sought out and picked up and then utilized.
And I would hope utilized for the good, too, I would assume.
Well, not necessarily. It depends on your definition of good.
Okay.
which, if you're a member of Skull and Bones or a member of the Bilderberg Group, your definition of good may be quite different than another person's definition of good. And that's one of the reasons why I have been the only person ever to leave the Brotherhood. I was the only person to leave and live to tell the tale.
Yeah, because
I didn't believe that what was going on was, in fact, good for society and mankind in general.
Okay. So for the overwhelming number of people without that particular vibratory frequency, it might not be a good thing to have these guys in charge then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, again, it's all a person's viewpoint, but I'll tell you what the general consensus is at the top tier. The general consensus when you deal with the powers behind the politicians, which are more powerful than the politicians, and the powers of the group that control the banks and control the basic monopolies, media, money, food, drugs, water, transportation. These are the major commodities that are being controlled globally. The powers that control that believe that there are two groups of people on planet Earth. There's those that have the birthright to control and be in charge and rule, and then everyone else, who is really nothing more than a slave.
Wow.
And that's how it's set up. They really believe that there is an elite class of people that by birth and by DNA vibration are designed to rule, and the other people, the rest, 99.9%, are designed to be followers and to, in effect, be slaves. And that's the pattern. Now, I don't agree with this because the DNA vibration of everyone can change and does change if a person knows how to do it and wants to evolve even further. So everybody should have the right to experience their life the way they choose to, but the controlling elite don't believe that is to the betterment of society.
Well, that does go back, though. I mean, way back to the days of the pharaohs, and even right up into the 1700s when the royalty of Europe was considered almost demigods and did not allow commoners to interbreed with them.
That's exactly correct. And even to this day, the blue bloods, for example, always intermarry. They still don't let people outside of their patterns marry.
Yeah.
If you're, a Harvard alumni or a Skull and Bones, you can't marry somebody out of the club. So that still goes on today. And people like Bill Gates and people like Warren Buffett and Donald Trump are very vocal about that you must be born with it. It's something you are born with. And they're very, very vocal. They're not hiding their belief. Back in the century, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison believed this to be the case as well. You're either born with it, it's a bloodline, or you're not. And if you're not in it, you can't get into it.
Well, I mean, certainly people are born with better abilities at some things than other people. So, I mean, obviously Bill Gates is an excellent businessman, but I don't necessarily think that makes him a member of a Illuminati-type conspiracy, although I'm not really into conspiracy theories, and I'm not very well informed about them, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's not really a conspiracy theory. I think that's a bad way to describe it. What it is basic economics. Okay. And the people that are in control of various industries, they're looking at strictly from an economic standpoint. It's about what's the best thing to do. It's in the best interest of our financial interests. So it's really an economic thing. It's really not conspiracy, and it's smart economics, although I think it's to the detriment of the majority of society. I heard you earlier before the break talking about my good friend Jonathan Eward, who is fighting the FTC and the FDA and what's happening with the pawn people and so forth. This whole FDA situation, my book Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About exposed the unholy alliance between the government and the drug companies. This is one of them as well. It's not a conspiracy, it's financial. When the drug companies said, look, let's pay off the FDA so the FDA can write a law that says only a drug can be used to treat, prevent, or cure a disease, we've eliminated all the competition. And we've maximized our profits. And since that law went into effect, the profitability of drug companies has been up over 75% and continues to rise every single year.
Well, see,
because now you can't even tell somebody to use an orange to cure scurvy, even though it's the cure for scurvy. Well, which is a vitamin C deficiency.
Sure, but that was always my theory about conspiracies too. It's just a bunch of rich, powerful people getting together to stay rich and powerful. And I think that sort of sums it up. And whether it's the FDA or the royalty or whatever, I guess that theory holds true for any given group of people. But anyway, just to get back to Area 51 a little, you said that when you were there, you were also made privy to some, extraterrestrial type of, I don't know if you'd call it cures or at least ways of approaching disorders.
Correct. And basically, here's an interesting philosophy that it's right in front of everyone's eyes.
Okay.
Nobody has ever talked about it. And let me explain how this works. Mm-hmm. We hear about evolution, and we hear about that every species on the planet evolves over time, and that the reason that man is here is because we are nothing more than evolved creatures from Earth, that we just evolved, and all creatures evolve. This is the theory of evolution. Okay. Well, if you look at what we see today on the planet, the theory of evolution is thrown out the window, and here's why. Let's take a look at an alligator. This alligator has been around for millions of years. How do we know? Because via fossils, we know that alligators have been around on the planet for millions of years. And they've never evolved.
Yeah, but
they haven't changed at all.
But I think, once you get to a point where everything's working well and you're functioning very well as a species, that necessity for evolution stops.
Well, that's one theory, but then let's ask a question. All the planets, all the animals on this planet, none of them have evolved over tens of thousands of years. The only species that continues to evolve are human beings. We're, for example, different sizes than we were even just 100 years ago. The growth, our thinking, we continue to change our technology. We're the only animal species, if you want to call us an animal species, or the only beings on the planet that continue to evolve and continue to improve. Again, you can debate whether it's improving or not, but we're changing our lifestyle via technology. Every other animal species does exactly the same today as it did 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago. So there's no evolution. But the reason why I bring this up is, why is this? Because human beings had a DNA which has been spliced into. Scientists now know that this is factual and they can't explain it. Our DNA is not a natural phenomenon. It has been genetically modified at some point in our history, and this genetic modification has been designed to make us continue to evolve, which is where we're going. So from a natural cure standpoint, the way that the technology that I learned from not just Area 51, but from some of these extraterrestrial beings, is the brain itself in your mind has the ability to change the vibration at the DNA level, therefore create spontaneous healing. This is the hardest thing for people to grasp and understand. However, there are hundreds of thousands of cases of, quote, faith healing or spontaneous healing by people all around the planet. And it's created by their mind. And even science admits it's true with something called the placebo effect. The placebo effect means you get nothing. You have an incurable disease. And as high as 40% of the people who get the nothing, because they believe that it could be the miracle drug, get cured of their incurable disease. And the only thing that cured them was their minds. Well, science actually has the evidence that this is true.
Well, that's a great point. I want to get back to that. We need to take a quick break. Kate Valentine here. I'm speaking with Kevin Trudeau. We're on the Kate Valentine UFO Show on 1160 WVNJ. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments. You can call right now, 800-962-1160, or you can go to our website to post your comments, atlanticcoastufos.com. Be right back. Hope to hear from you then. Hi, welcome back to the Kate Valentine Show, 1160 WVNJ, where our guest today is Kevin Trudeau. Your input into this conversation is always welcome and valuable. You can reach us now, 800-962-1160, or post your comments on our website, atlanticcoastufos.com. Kevin, right before the break, you were talking about genetic modification in humans, and you said that it had been proven. And what exactly? I know Zecharia Sitchin was very heavy into talking about the Anunnaki and all this business. But had you found some evidence that this had happened?
Well, the evidence is, I think, if you just look at the DNA structure of the human being, scientists admit that the DNA has been genetically modified. So the question is, when and who did the genetic modification? And there's a lot of different theories about this. One, of course, is even if you look at all the texts from the Bible to the Sumerian texts to the Sanskrit texts, they all suggest that aliens from some other planet came down and took the species on planet Earth, one particular species, made that genetic modification, thus created man, which goes in complete alignment with the biblical account of creation. Man was actually created and even the biblical account says we, didn't say I, this is God talking, we decided to make man in our own image. And nobody can explain that from either the Jewish faith or the Christian faith of why it says we instead of I, if there's a singular God. That doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of theories about it. It's whatever you choose to believe. I have a pretty good sense of what the reality is. But more important than what happened in the past, it's what can we do right now. I think it's important that people consider their life today, and since we are living on Earth, and since we have an existence here, doesn't it make sense to focus on how to make our life better, more enjoyable, more fun, happier, more fulfilling? Whatever and however you define those words. But I think that's really the important thing. And we have the tools, we have the information, we have the knowledge in terms of how to create the life that we want so we can enjoy every moment of every day while we're here and get the most out of it so we feel fulfilled.
Well, that would fit in with a web comment from Lauren. She said, we wanted to know if we were making any progress with the pharmaceutical industry, as money rules and they have money. But then she followed that with a more interesting comment. She said, I bet ETs don't take drugs. And I was wondering, had you had any experience with not only Area 51, but your other contacts with extraterrestrials? And I think we were talking about that just before genetic modification and their ability to heal ills, or however you wanted to put it.
Well, it's interesting. Movies and television shows really are used to tell the tale and get slowly into society's thinking what the reality is. Go back to Buck Rogers. You know, when people were watching Buck Rogers, we hadn't even had a rocket program in America, never alone getting into space or the moon. Well, the Buck Rogers, what happened on that show is actually now reality and happening in real life. But let's look at an interesting show, Star Trek.
Okay.
Remember Bones, the medical officer on Star Trek?
Oh, definitely.
How did he heal everyone?
With that
he had a device in his hand which went, ooh. It basically threw out a vibration. Okay. And that's how he healed everyone's physical body, with a vibrational frequency, which is interesting because that was what Rife used, Dr. Royal Rife, when he developed the Rife technology of sending frequencies. And that's what Dr. Voll invented, the Dermatron machine, and that's Samuel Hahnemann who invented homeopathy. It's all about vibrations and about vibrational techniques or tools or instruments or substances that let the body heal itself.
Even acupuncture using silver needles conducts electrical currents through various parts of the body, and you could think of that as a frequency as well.
That's exactly correct. So in answer to your question, what the technology I learned about healing the physical body was all frequency-based. It wasn't substance-based. From an acute standpoint, you know, herbal plants and so forth, they all have frequencies. So, yeah, from a biological standpoint, if you eat valeriana root, it will make you drowsy and tired, and that's where, of course, the drug Valium comes from. If you have white willow bark, that can numb pain receptors, and that's where, of course, aspirin comes from. So there are natural substances out there that have been converted into drugs for profit because they're patentable.
Well,
but even beyond the natural substances, the frequency is really the next generation. But it will only work when the person is capable of believing that the frequency will work. Otherwise, it won't work at all.
Okay, Kate Valentine here speaking with Kevin Trudeau on 1160 WVNJ. We'd like your thoughts on this conversation. You can call now, 800-962-1160, or post your comments on our website, AtlanticCoastUFOs.com. Well, Kevin, the thing I have with homeopathic cures is that I can't really see a difference between willow bark and aspirin, other than that aspirin has been, how would you say, sort of condensed and made a little stronger and a little bit more regulated than willow bark, which may have grown in a bad area and not produced the acetylsalic acid that it should have.
Well, you're 100% correct, and this is the argument for standardized pharmaceutical-grade medicines. If you take an aspirin, every single aspirin has the exact same amount of, quote, active ingredient.
Right.
But the natural substance has other substances in it which are designed by nature to balance everything out. An example is a coca leaf. Mm-hmm. If you're in Peru, you take coca leaves and you chew them, and you get a little bit of sensation in the mouth. You don't become a cocaine addict. You don't become a drug addict. You're getting the stimulation similar to drinking a cup of coffee. But in Peru, it was harder to brew coffee than chew on a coca leaf. So the cocaine gave the indigenous people there the energy they needed to go on long journeys and so forth and so on. So it was a very useful tool. Certainly, every coca leaf could have a certain amount of the active ingredient of cocaine, so it would affect you slightly differently. But it had all the balancing factors. When you take that coca leaf and extract the cocaine from it and turn it into cocaine or crack cocaine, now you're dealing with something that nature didn't intend to be taken as an isolated substance. And that's how you can get physically addicted to it and cause a lot of other health problems. So there is a balance there. So you're right in the respect that there isn't a lot of difference, but there's enough difference where the pharmaceutical grade can be really problematic.
Well, okay, so that you're saying that actually the natural things contain components other than what the pharmaceuticals produce, so that they are, actually, in a sense, marketing an incomplete product.
Right. If you take an orange, for example, and you have scurvy, and you eat an orange, well, the orange has vitamin C in it, mm-hmm. which science says is ascorbic acid. Well, you can't find ascorbic acid in nature. The vitamin C that's in an orange always comes with bioflavonoids attached to it, always. That's how nature provides vitamin C. And there's always a form of fiber to release the nutrients in the intestine as opposed to the stomach. So when science says, oh, here's a vitamin C capsule, which is ascorbic acid, it releases in the stomach, it's not what nature intended. And if there's no bioflavonoids attached to it, it's not the complete balanced form of vitamin C. Therefore, ascorbic acid doesn't cure scurvy, which is a vitamin C deficiency. But eating a couple oranges does. So nature provides, there's an old saying that we have, science is not better than nature, but it's more profitable.
Yeah, but there never was a patent on aspirin, and they certainly made a lot of money on that as well. I don't think, and oranges too are quite a profitable item. Orange juice certainly is. So
well, it's certainly profitable, but and certainly aspirin is as well, but
mm-hmm.
not in comparison to Vioxx or something that's patentable. If you look at the spread, I have friends on the board of Sloan Kettering, on the board of Merck and Pfizer. If you look at the spread between a patented pharmaceutical versus a non-patented pharmaceutical like aspirin, there's no comparison.
Right. And
nobody even today. Keep in mind, aspirin was done way previous 1950.
Right.
Today, the only pharmaceuticals that come out on the market, the only ones that are even researched, they must be able to get patented.
Right.
Otherwise,
but then
they haven't come on the market since 1962. Not
right.
one non-patented drug.
Right. Well, anyway, just to quickly get back to Area 51, if you don't mind. So you were actually there?
I was physically there. They have hangars that are in the, people think it's underground.
Yeah.
It's kind of a misnomer. They're actually more off of Area 51. The hangars are part of the, kind of the mountain or hill landscape, and they're in the side, highly camouflaged. And so that's where you get into the correct hangars. It's easier, because if it was underground, you couldn't bring something up. You'd have to have elevators and things of this nature. So they're actually ground level, but they're in the mountains, and it's actually off Area 51. That's where the alien spacecraft is housed, the one that I saw. I don't know if there's more. That's where the dead aliens used to be housed. They're no longer there. And I was there back in the 80s, and I believe that a lot of the material has now been spread out and moved to other facilities because Area 51 is now such a hotbed topic of discussion. So they decided just to move it to other locations, and I believe I was told multiple locations.
Well, that would make sense because everybody's quite aware of it, and it's fairly easy to get there. Not to get in there, but to get up onto the borders there. So, see, to me, it was always, I don't know, bandied about, yeah, they have this here, they don't have it there. So you actually do say without any hesitancy that they did have alien craft at Area 51.
Categorically, and from my sources, the Nazis during the Second World War also had an alien craft as well, which is why if you look at, and nobody even talks about this, think about the Second World War. Here we had a country called Germany that had lost the First World War. They were economically defeated. They were bankrupt as a nation. They had virtually no money, huge unemployment. You had countries like Japan, Russia, France, England, very powerful countries, and the United States, although reeling with a depression, still an economic powerhouse. Who developed all the super weapons? All the rockets were developed by Germans. All of the jet engine technology was developed by Germans. Most people don't know that our B-2 stealth bomber, guess who developed it? They had one in Germany. They actually developed a stealth fighter and a stealth bomber, a wing that looks almost identical to the B-2 stealth bomber. It was developed in the 40s by the Germans. They had a round circular craft that they had developed which flew, and it looked exactly like a flying saucer. This information is in the public domain, but nobody dares talk about it because it would open up a huge can of worms. How on God's green earth could the Germans be the only people on planet Earth that developed all of this advanced super technology?
Well,
the answer is because of alien technology that they were reverse engineering.
Well, that or maybe they just had the right, DNA frequencies to develop it, too. That's possible. Anyway, this is Kate Valentine speaking with Kevin Trudeau on the Kate Valentine UFO Show, 1160 WVNJ. We'll be glad to hear your thoughts, your comments. You can express them right now. Call us, 800-962-1160, or you can go right to our website, atlanticcoastufos.com. Be right back. Hope to hear from you then. Hi, welcome back to the Kate Valentine UFO Show on 1160 WVNJ. Our guest today is Kevin Trudeau, and as always, your input is very welcome. You can reach us now, 800-962-1160, or you can go to our website, atlanticcoastufos.com. Kevin, over the break, we had several web questions come in. First of all, Kevin, Albert would like to know what you think the government is hiding at Area 51. And why are they keeping it a secret from us?
Well, the existence of life on other planets or extraterrestrials is something that every government and every religion wants to keep hidden from the public.
Why would that be?
They believe that this will cause unrest, this will cause a major discord problem in the population. They believe it'll cause massive panic. And they just do not believe that it is in the best interests of the government in power to release this information because they fear that it will cause a revolt and maybe upheaval of independent states and a push toward a potential one-world government where each individual political party and controlling group will lose their power and influence. You consider that this WikiLeaks documents, 1 million government documents, which nobody's talking about what's in the documents, just the fact that WikiLeaks reported it.
Yeah, that's
true. These documents show that every politician is taking bribes and payoffs and basically just stealing money out of the government coffers. I mean, when you take Karzai, and he said, he had $130 million with him. He's in Switzerland. He's got boxes with $130 million in cash. What should we do about it? And the U.S. State Department said nothing, leave him alone. Okay, so here we have a politician of a country that we put in power who basically just stole $130 million. Where did he get it from? He got it from us, the American taxpayer. He just stole our money. So it shows that these guys are this corrupt. Now, if you're in a position where you can steal $130 million, why would you want to give up your power and give up your position and your ability to take more money? So that's the reason why it's being hidden.
Yeah, I know that's a very good reason, too. And I guess that goes back to the time of the pharaohs as well. We had another interesting web question from Trace, and she was wondering if there was any course or program that you would know of that would teach us to condition our mind to be more receptive or heighten our abilities toward being psychic, and that, etc.
Well, the only course that I know of is, and I do know of virtually hundreds of different courses. The problem is none of these courses are taught to people who know the real information. None of them were a member of the Brotherhood and taught the information. So when I left the Brotherhood, me and 30 other top Brotherhood members formed an organization called the Global Information Network. And what this is in effect a private club where we teach the members how to raise their DNA vibration and change their DNA vibration, number one, how to understand that their brain wiring is what it is. You can't change that, which means you just may be a naturally gifted artist or naturally gifted at playing the piano, but that's your brain wiring. And thirdly, how to use your mind to broadcast the frequency. And when that broadcasted frequency is in complete alignment with your DNA frequency, that's when you manifest what you want. So, in effect, we teach people how to become more aware, how to become more, quote, psychic, and how to be able to manifest what they want in their life, including physical health. So we have members now. We just launched a little over a year and a half ago. We already have members in 117 countries around the world. We have a cruise going on in January. We have completely sold out the cruise. We have 4,500 members from around the world who are booked on that cruise, where we're going to be teaching more techniques on how to use your mind to manifest your desires. So that's a private club, and if anybody wanted to improve their abilities, I teach much of the information, plus the 30 other billionaires that are on the council. We teach you what we have learned, and it's the first time in history information has been revealed to the masses. But it's a private club. It's by invitation only. We have members, I mentioned, in 117 countries, and we have meetings and events all over the world, plus a lot of the training is available directly online as well.
Well, would that be, we hear so much about abductions and human alien hybrids. Would that be sort of an outreach on the alien part to sort of imprint that type of knowledge on humans? Do you think?
The alien technology on how to use your mind is what we have been taught. And what you're not, and we'll never read about in any book really, on how to manifest your desires, is the simple concept is you have a DNA vibration. And if you send out a mental vibration that you want a Ferrari, but your DNA vibration isn't in alignment or a match with that you send out, you get frustrated and nothing manifests. This is why some people just get rich like automatically, and other people struggle their whole life to make money. And they go, I have some block on making money. I got my dream board. I got my dream book. I read the book The Secret. I watched the DVD The Secret. I'm using the law of attraction, but it's not working. Well, it's never going to work unless you change your DNA vibration and get that in alignment with your broadcasting vibration that you're using out of your mind. And that's really the trick, how to change that DNA vibration and raise it up to a certain level and put it in alignment with what you want. That's the only way to make it happen. So we teach people how to do that, and it's from alien technology that we learned.
That's very interesting. So now these aliens then obviously do control their own lives then through this vibration patterns.
They do, and again, there's an interesting history behind them. There are different groups of these. It's not just from one planet, and they're still evolving too. They're not perfect beings at all, and they have major flaws, etc., based on their own evolution. The same thing is happening with us. When you get heavily into technology and you stop interaction with other beings of your species, you have some major flaws that start developing over time. So what happened in this particular race, for example, is communication is now all telepathic as opposed to verbal. And the interpersonal communication stopped because of, it started with, in effect, the internet type of thing and texting as opposed to talking to somebody on the phone. I get a text from somebody, and I go, I don't want to text them back. I call them. They don't answer their phone. They send me a text because they can't talk to another human being. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to text you. And isn't that interesting that people, especially children, can't communicate verbally, and they're afraid to talk to somebody on the phone, and God forbid they have to meet somebody in person. They would rather be texting back and forth and not communicating at all. Well, this is the beginning of a spiral downward that's going to have some real negative effects.
Right. Well, Kate Valentine here speaking with Kevin Trudeau on 1160 WVNJ. If you have any questions or comments, please call us now, 800-962-1160, or you can go right to our website, anunaki2ufos.com. Wow. So, now, have you actually come into contact with aliens, or do they sort of keep to themselves?
The alien groups that are on planet Earth do come and go. They're not here permanently. And I had been in contact with two from two different races, face-to-face. Face-to-face. Yeah.
Were they able to exist in this atmosphere, or did they need some, I don't know, respiratory aids or something?
They look just like us.
Oh, wow.
Remember the scriptural reference. Let us make man in our image.
Huh. Wow. So, and
it's just a higher evolved. It's like we're going to be, 10,000 years from now, or 100,000 years from now.
So, do you think they're guiding this evolutionary pattern, or do we have to sort of come up with it on our own?
No, they're not guiding at all. They're actually monitoring. Because
okay.
Keep in mind, the DNA splicing, if you will, or genetic modification was done, tens of thousands of years ago. It's a lot longer than people realize. New discoveries now of monuments that have been created by, quote, man, are showing up all over the world much earlier than the pyramids and much earlier than any scientist ever believed that man was on Earth. And they're looking at these structures and saying, wait a minute, based on our initial timeline, the only people living was, Cro-Magnon man or Neanderthal man who didn't have the ability. They were stone. This is the Stone Age man. He didn't have the ability to do this, this technologically advanced construction. But so the whole timeline of Earth and the evolution of mankind is being thrown off, and scientists are getting really annoyed because they were so convinced that this is the way it is until they discovered, for example, in Turkey, this buried understand construction project that rivals the pyramids in terms of the quality of construction, and it was at least 20,000 years before the pyramids.
Yeah. And
they're like, this throws off everything.
Yeah, that whole ancient astronaut thing that got started, I guess, with von Däniken as far as popularizing it, it really has caught hold, and it's on History Channel, and it's, I think people are realizing that something definitely had happened, whatever that thing was, but that the timeline that we're taught probably is incorrect. I have to agree with you most definitely there. Kate Valentine here. I'm speaking with Kevin Trudeau on the Kate Valentine UFO Show on 1160. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments. You can call us now, 800-962-1160, or you can go to our website, anunaki2ufos.com. We'll be right back after a short break, and we hope to hear from you then. Hi, welcome back to the Kate Valentine Show at 1160 WVNJ. Our guest today is Kevin Trudeau, and your input into this conversation is always welcome. You can call us at 800-962-1160. You can post your comments on our website at anunaki2ufos.com. Kevin, just during the break, we had a comment from Dave, and he was wondering if you had ever heard of the Bell Project for the Nazis back in the Second World War.
Yes, I have, and there's a lot of controversy about the Bell Project. Some of the top scientists vanished with the bell, and there was a question of whether this bell was, in fact, some type of time machine in some respect, whether it was a flying device, whether it was a time travel device. There's a lot more questions unanswered than things we know about it, but all we know is that they were involved in something, And what exactly it was still remains a mystery.
Yeah. Oh, gee, I was sort of hoping you knew a little bit more about that. But I think that was one of those things that, once discovered, was truly kept a deep, dark secret. And from what Dave says, is that even the major scientists working on it were executed at the end of the war.
Well, they were all executed. These are some of the most brilliant minds of all time in terms of technology, and they were just shot because of what they knew. So this puts us at probably one of the highest secrecy projects in the Nazi era.
Yeah.
And the strong belief, the consensus, is that it was some type of time travel device, again picked up from alien technology.
Yeah. Well, also we had a web comment from Grace who said that the alien technology on how to use the mind, she believes that's key. And she's probably quite right on that.
It really is, and that's really where we're evolving to. The key is this. The DNA right now of the majority of people on planet Earth are not capable of being in alignment with the thought of how to use the mind. So this is why raising the DNA level is something that is our evolution. Because whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe, it can achieve. The only way you can believe something is if it's in alignment with your DNA vibration. If your DNA vibration hasn't evolved enough, your belief, let's say that I believe or I can conceive myself of flying. That's what I can conceive. But you can't believe it. You can't bring yourself to believe it because your DNA vibration hasn't risen to that level yet. If you're after thousands of years, when your DNA vibration rises to the correct level, now if you conceive, hey, I can fly without an airplane, now it is in alignment with your DNA. You can actually believe it. That's when you can achieve it. And that's why the evolution process that our evolution is being monitored. That's why it's going to take time for a lot of these things to develop, and that's why technology starts developing over time, because we conceive something, but as our DNA vibration rises, we have the ability to believe it more.
Well, certainly the thought is the forerunner to the technology. That's for certain. What do you think the purpose of did the aliens impart any idea of what their purpose here is? Are we just an interesting experiment, or do they have some deeper purpose?
The first purpose was to mine gold. That was the first purpose of coming to Earth and other planets.
See, that always seemed a little bit unbelievable to me. I mean, are we really the only source of gold?
No. That's why I say other planets as well.
Oh, okay.
Consider this. Consider this.
Okay.
Gold, throughout the history of man, has been the most prized metal.
Absolutely.
And why?
I don't know. I never realized why. I mean, it's pretty, but also
right,
it doesn't.
It isn't that pretty.
But it is very inert, though, and I think it keeps its shape, and it doesn't oxidize. It doesn't look ugly after a while, so possibly.
So does quartz.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's a lot of things that have all those same elements of gold or similar.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are more precious. Some of them are much more beautiful. I mean, look at quartz. Look at
diamonds.
Different type diamonds. Some of these things are beautiful, right?
Right.
So, but why has gold always been the most prized possession? And why has it been used as the standard of money in exchange?
Mm-hmm.
The reason is because it has been the metal of the, quote, gods. And it does have a unique energetic property. And that energetic property on planet Earth, when you have it in your possession, it actually attracts more, quote, gold. It attracts material wealth or material things in your life. It doesn't give you spiritual nirvana, no. But it will attract material things in your life if you have it in your physical possession. So there's a trick. People always say, what can I do to raise my money-making vibration? Go buy some gold, couple-ounce bars, and carry it with you all the time, pure gold. It will have a huge impact on your ability to make money.
And here I always
just
thought...
by holding it.
Yeah, and I always thought diamonds were a girl's best friend. Okay. Anyway, this is Kate Valentine. I'm speaking to Kevin Trudeau And we are on 1160 WVNJ. If you'd like to give us a call, it's 800-962-1160. Or you can always post your comments on our web, atlanticcoastufos.com. So, but it would seem that these guys are going to cross in, although maybe for them it's easy, but interplanetary space simply to mine gold. That always sort of stuck in my mind as, a little bit unbelievable.
No, well, there's two factors.
Uh-huh.
The very first reason that we were, quote, visited was throughout the galaxies, planets were looked for that had gold. Earth is one of them and not the only.
Mm-hmm.
Since there were people here on this planet, but very primitive people, the need was we need slave labor. So our DNA was constructed as slave labor. That was number one. But it was constructed in such a way in the genetic modification where that every generation it would be evolving. It would be evolving. So we were created first as slave labor, but also we were in effect manufactured by genetic modification so that every generation we would be evolving and evolving and evolving closer to our alien creators, so that we could be a race and provide an environment where, as their planet was potentially dying, we would have another place in which inhabitation could exist and coexist.
All right, well, that would explain it a little bit more. We're sort of coming to the end, but I was wondering, what are your predictions for the coming year and for 2012? Do you see anything happening, especially along the lines of government disclosures?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential things that are happening, and nobody knows what's going to happen because there's a lot of potentialities based on a lot of factors.
Okay.
One, I can tell you, a strong possibility is more riots as economies collapse, money gets devalued, prices soar, and things just like food and water become challenging. So you're going to see a lot of issues like that, as you already saw in England for the first time in 100 years, where British citizens attacked royalty, saying off with their heads.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the Bolshevik Revolution against the Romanovs in Russia and against the French Revolution. I mean, that's serious.
Yes,
We're seeing fights in parliaments around the world, in Ukraine and in Italy, in the parliament building.
Yeah.
You're seeing things like when Batista was running Cuba, and the rebels were blowing themselves up, suicide bombers, so that Castro could come in because of the corruption at the Batista government. So this is happening, and I think this is going to be escalating over the next 2 years.
Any good
That's
things?
That's going to be the big problem.
Anything good out there?
Well, the good news is what goes on around you, you can create your own environment. It can be raining outside. Well, if you have an umbrella, you don't get wet. Or if you just decide to stay inside, it just, it'll pass and the sun will come out at some point. So there will be a lot of chaos and confusion, but if a person is dialed in with the right vibration and frequency, they don't have to participate in that, and it will happen virtually all around them, and they will not be a participant in that negative scene.
Just a real quick question before we close. Grace had another question. She's very curious about DNA vibration. Did you ever take a reading of the frequency that your own body is emitting?
Yeah, there's technology that can read frequencies, and my frequency I was brought on because I have a particular frequency that makes me good at a particular thing, and that was exercised and made stronger. And one of the things that I have the ability to do is read other people's frequency and affect them. And in the movie Push, if you watch the movie Push, which I encourage people to do, it is a fiction movie and a lot of it's not true, but it gives you the general idea. You will probably get an indication when you watch that movie as to what I am pretty good at in terms of my vibration.
Wow. That's really very interesting. Kevin, thank you so much for being with us. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Well, the last thought I want everybody to know is that every single person has the ability to make their life better. You have everything you need. You have the ability to create and manifest your dreams and desires. And you can have be, and do. Anything and everything you choose to, as long as you can believe it. So you can be happy and create the life you want.
And I suppose that would be on your website, I believe.
Yes. And obviously I have my radio show as well, and I just encourage people to listen to it and really believe in their dreams, and their life can be as magical as they choose to make it.
That's a great thought, and I guess we'll leave it at that. Again, thank you so much. It's been a really fascinating hour. Really appreciate your being here with us.
Super good. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.